Okay, so today we're going to talk about Twitter. We're going to give you a bit of an idea of how I've managed to use Twitter over the last 2 years of being a physio student, and also some of the things that I've managed to use it for. Thank you very much, Jess. And she just told me there that actually we really ought to look at it from a healthcare professional qualified point of view as well, and how you can use it just as much as us students. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. So let's begin with Twitter. So as I mentioned, what I want to do today is really summarise how I've managed to use Twitter to what I feel is a really good effect. And I want to look at some of the key components of how Twitter can potentially help you get the most from the platform. So first of all, if you're brand new to Twitter, if you haven't got a Twitter account, obviously you need to set one up. Really easy to do. If you've got a Facebook, an Instagram, any other accounts, it's probably even easier to set up than that. My advice is if you're going to use it or haven't used it before and you're going to use it for a professional purpose, keep to professional follows. And that's how I've managed to keep it really focused for physiotherapy, and I've kind of spread it out a bit to allied health professionals, etc., which we'll talk about in a bit. So set up your account. Get your handle, mine's at Physio Armstrong, it could be whatever you want it to be, and then just get started. So, leads me nicely onto one of the things is get following people that are relevant to what you're interested in, really. Now, as a student, I've often been led by what my next placement is. So if I've had a respiratory placement, I would go on and, for instance, I'd look up the ACPRC, which is the Association of Chartered Physiotherapists in Respiratory Care. So that would then give me a sort of a focused insight in all the things to do with physiotherapy in respiratory care. Now those special networks are really good. They're the CSP special interest groups are great for focusing in an interest that you have, an up and coming placement, a module that you're doing, or if you're a qualified physio, an area that you may be going to rotate into next, or that potentially you're really interested in specialising in. So that's kind of the first thing as you get started. The next thing to be aware of is the hashtags. So hashtags are really good, and Twitter uses them to the full effect in terms of you can search a hashtag and it will bring up all the conversations where everyone else has included that hashtag in their text. So for a really good example of this was the Physio Talk tweet chat that I was involved with last night. So last night was the 11th of November, and Physio Talk is someone definitely to follow on Twitter, a group that have been specifically set up to generate discussions. Happens usually every other Monday evening starting at 8:30 for an hour, and everyone talking and having those discussions based around some specific questions. We'll use the hashtag PhysioTalk. So then people can follow the conversation by just searching hashtag PhysioTalk, and it will bring up the conversation and a constant feed of that discussion. And that's really good. It also means you can search for key, use it as a key term search. So you can search for sort of areas that you're interested in, or events, etc. Hashtags are also used if you go to a conference, a really good thing. So if you go to Physio UK this year, you may have used the Physio UK 2019 hashtag, and that enables you to keep track of everything that's going on, what people are doing, what other professionals are doing, the speakers are doing, what the conference itself is kind of promoting, and it just gives you that ability to see a thread specific to something that you're kind of most interested at that particular time. So hashtags are really good, and Twitter utilizes them. I think Twitter was probably one of the first places to do so. Instagram obviously has taken that on board quite a lot now as a promotional tool. So the other thing that sort of once you've got started with Twitter, one of the great things you can use it for is connections, and that's networking really with other people that you want to. Now, it's just like any other social platform. It is dictated by you. The platform evolves around how you use it and who you follow. So you'll end up with a Twitter network that's of interest to you. Now that's something I won't go into it today, but that's something to bear in mind in terms of a bias. So all social media, I'm a great believer, is biased towards what we're interested in, our beliefs, our opinions, and Twitter will be no different. So always keep that hat on and try and maybe every so often think, well, I'm going to follow something that I never would have, or follow something that you don't really agree with. It's a way of opening up. But anyway, that's a separate conversation for another time. But it means you can follow who you want to and connect with who you want to. And Twitter is fantastic at connecting with people. And as a student, I was astonished at how accessible people are within the profession. And it first gave me the insight of physiotherapy being really open and generous with support. So I've connected on Twitter with therapy leads for regions. I've connected through Twitter with Karen Middleton from the CSP. And I mean, when I say connected, I mean having conversations, messages, etc. So another great one for me from a running point of view is Tom Goon, who's been really, really helpful in terms of giving me sort of tips on some current research if I'm sort of looking at things in terms of running. And these are sort of really quite prominent people within their profession, very experienced, qualified professionals, and they're happy to talk to anyone who asks a question. You may, some might take a little longer to reply or might miss it, but as a general rule, I've had nothing but positive experiences in that respect. So what I'll do is at the end of this video, I'm going to just do a reel of some of the key bodies that I would follow. I might put a couple of individuals up there, but obviously I'm going to miss a few. So if I do it and I have missed you and you've helped me in the past, I really apologise. It's impossible to keep track of everything, but some of the ones that recently maybe I'll put up, but particularly some of the key bodies and things like that. The CSP will list all of the special interest groups, and you'll find those on Twitter, and you can search just like you can in any other platform. So that's connectivity. And I would really recommend, if you're a physio watching this, connect with other allied health professionals. So connect with your occupational therapists, your speech and language therapists, your OTs, and I think I said that already, your podiatrists, and think outside as well. Think of your other therapies that might actually benefit you in terms of being able to see what they do and how they work and what are they talking about on Twitter, because I guarantee it will influence us just as much as it does the other way. A really good one is at Generation AHP, which is a relatively new page across social media, but is fantastic at doing sort of connecting AHPs. Also nurses, doctors, consultants, registrars, newly qualified doctors, really good as well to get an insight on what they're doing. And surgeons as well. So surgeons are sort of keeping up to date with current research on surgeries that we as physios pick up afterwards. So think about why you might want to follow certain people that may have an effect or an influence on what you do as a physio. The next one is research. Definitely connect with some of the research. So if you've read a recent paper, search for the author on Twitter, because if they're on Twitter, the chances are that they will be publishing or putting out their research in some form or another before it's publicated. As we may know with research, it takes an awful long time for a research to be from being completed to being publicised in a journal. There's an awful lot with the peer review process that it is, and rightly so. It's thorough. It does mean that there's a bit of a lag. So it means if you're on Twitter and you're following researchers that publish in the area or field that you're interested in or that you need to know about for a module or placement, you might get it a lot quicker than otherwise. So have a look at that. And the researchers are really, I found that they take it as a massive compliment when I've contacted them about their research, asked for a copy of it, or ask them for information about the research, whether that be sort of from a point of view of critical appraisal of the research or just clarifying certain bits. That I find I get a really good response, which is fantastic, how it should be. So other things, CSP, obviously I would definitely recommend following the CSP, so at the CSP. And as well as that, you've got your regional networks. Now, whether you're a student or a qualified physiotherapist, definitely get involved with your regional network. They meet, they put on events, they put on conferences, but also it's just a great place to network with other physiotherapists within the region that you're in. And so do find your local CSP network, and I just want to clarify that's for students as well, to get involved with your regional network. The way the CSP has changed the student structure means that actually they're quite keen for students to get involved in that regional flow of communication. As I said before, the special interest groups are really good. I'll put a list just here of a couple of those special interest groups that I've used that have been really good. And as I say, at the end of this video, I will put a list of people that pages, groups, etc., that I think are useful from a student point of view, I suppose, to follow. But that's not to say as a qualified they're not useful as well. So that's kind of Twitter, really. I think it's a really refreshing social media platform if you use it primarily as a professional platform. So, if you're a big football fan, I wouldn't necessarily go following your local football team, or if you're a rugby fan, following the local rugby team or the British Lions or England. I keep it specific, because then your Twitter feed isn't going to be full of things that are distracting you. It'll also be different to what you're bombarded with day in, day out if you are a Facebook, Instagram, etc., Snapchat user. It means when you go onto Twitter, the mindset will be quite different, and you'll be sort of honed in on it from a point of view of a professional point of view, and hopefully it'll still be enjoyable, but it just means it's more focused, and it's actually a lot more efficient, I find, doing it that way. So enjoy it. Ask me any questions in the comments below. I'm on @PhysioArmstrong, so I'll put that just here. So do follow me, purely just because I'm happy to answer questions. But as I said, when you get onto Twitter, don't be afraid to message people, comment on things, ask them questions. Twitter, I can say from certainly an allied health professional point of view, is an incredibly welcoming place, and you'll get an awful lot out of it if you want to. But that's also to say you can do what we call the lurk, and you can just watch, just see what other people are doing, and then when you're ready, you can get involved as much or as little as you want. So I think that's going to be one of the shortest videos I've done so far. Going to keep it that. I'll see you for the next one, which is all going to be about what textbooks to get as a student.